going on, everybody? We are officially live. Just double checking my audio here on the feed. Everything appears to be working well. So welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Wisdom Wednesday. Coach Smith coming to you from my humble abode. And we'll give a few minutes here, as we always do, to allow people to jump into the feed. As you do so, please make sure you pop down, give me a little comment on there. Make sure you're hearing me okay, and simply say hello. So, Brandon, what's going on, my man? Hopefully all the news tomorrow is good for you, bud. Glad to have you on the program. Again, if you're stopping in, just pop in and say hello before I get into the content of tonight's show. Chris Wilson, I don't know how you're watching. You're supposed to be working. What's up, Rocky? DZ3, my man. Hey, what's going on, Pete? Mr. Petrosky, how are you? Lots of people jumping in the feed right now. So pop on by, say hello here before we get into tonight's session. And I think we got a pretty good one tonight. I think it's a pretty important one. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of opinions here of what should be in somebody's accessory bag. But I'm going to go over some of the stuff that's in mine, some things to think about. And, during the feed, as we're going through this, maybe you have one that you like to put in a bag that you may want to share in the feed in the comments section. I'll gladly put it up on the screen. And it could be something that maybe I'll add myself, or somebody else in here may see some merit in it. So what else we got here? Dom stopping by. Wade, what's going on? Colin, how we doing? Looks like we got about 40 people into the feed already here. So stop on by, say hello. And we'll get started here in probably just about a minute here. I'll allow a couple more people just to kind of jump in the stream. That way they can grab it from the right here at the start and get into some of tonight's content. Looks like Joel's checking in. Brett looks like is on the feed. And we got about... looks like we got about 30 of you coming through the bowling page, a couple through my personal, couple of YouTubers there. Vince, what's going on? You must be on break with Chris. I think you guys are probably working the same shift right now. So, all right, a few more seconds here, and we're gonna dive right in. But again, pretty excited about this one. Good to be on here and talking to everybody a little bit about bowling, and I'm getting excited myself, gearing up for regional this weekend in Towson, Maryland. So get ready to put the shoes on, do some competing this weekend, and hopefully bring home that first banner. So, hey, Aaron, what's going on? Joel, glad you're on the program here. So before we jump into everything, I thought it would be, it was a good time to kind of start off the program and just basically, send out, my sincerest condolences to the Marcus family, to Steph Sheridan, and obviously Michael's closest friends. I'm sure everybody was shook up yesterday, as I was, losing a great friend and in Michael. Mike was one of the good guys in the industry. Was obviously taken from us way too young. 36 is way too young to be going out of this world. But Mike was always, the guy that was, kind of bubbly, great personality, sarcastic. And I'll be honest with you, it reminded me a lot about myself. Just was kind of a free will and always willing to dedicate time to help others. And, I for one, I'm going to miss Mike like crazy. But, it's one of those things, I think, that I saw a post that Steph had put up earlier. She was out with Chris Mathewson, and they were sitting at a lake, reflecting on Mike's life. And I think the important thing through any of this is that we remember all the good things about the individual, and we celebrate life instead of, trying to dwell so much on the whys. If life was fair, it would be easy. If life made sense all the time, it would be easy. But essentially, it doesn't seem to be fair at times, and it's definitely going to hurt for a while for all of us. But again, I think we all come together, and you learn a little bit, and you learn to need to appreciate the the life that we do have and that we do live. Go out with a positive attitude. Enjoy every single minute you can of it. Make sure you tell your loved ones you love them. Your people that are close to you, and things along those lines. But for myself, again, I'm going to miss Mike like crazy. I can't believe I'm not going to see him competing side by side with me or having conversations or complaining about urethane and all the other things that we did when we were near each other or crossing together. But, Steph and the rest of the family there and everybody that was touched by this, my condolences are out there. And when I say to somebody, if there's ever anything I can ever do for anybody that was, touched by Mike or anything, don't ever hesitate to ask. I am that person. I will follow through. I'm all ears. If anybody needs me, they know how to get a hold of me. Okay. So with that being said, that's kind of tough. I was hoping I didn't get too choked up as I'm actually going through that, but it's sad to kind of think about it. But so why are we here tonight, right? We're essentially thought it'd be a good segment to kind of go through and talk a little bit about accessory bags or backpacks or, your gadget bags, whatever you want to refer to it as, right? There's not one, complete bag that's going to be perfect for every single person. But whether you're a league bowler, competitive bowler, or, you're getting into it and thinking, do I have everything that I need when I'm getting ready to compete? I think it's a good thing for us to kind of share together some of the things we use. And I thought, hey, I want to make sure that I kind of discuss what's in my bag and, what may be a little different for you or for other people, depending on your style or you use grips, you don't use grips, and we'll go over some of these things. But I think it's important. I think some people chuckle sometimes, like, what the heck are they carrying a huge backpack around for? Well, honestly, a bowler's backpack, in my opinion, is like a woman's purse. Okay. There might be a whole bunch of shit in there that we don't need. I'm sorry, I swore. I don't care. It's my broadcast. There might be a whole bunch of stuff in there we don't need, but I guarantee you when you need something, it's usually in there, right? So, I'm guilty of probably having more stuff in there than I need, but I would rather be overly prepared for a tournament or for league or for anything that I may run into than underprepared and not having it and scrambling to see if somebody else does. So again, I'm going to go through some of the things I think are important to be in there. And then as I'm doing that, I want to make sure you guys throw in the comment section, as I'm going through, if I miss something that maybe you think is super important, throw it all in there, right? Because it's cool. We all learn together. We all do this, right? So first and foremost, one of the first things that I have in my backpack, okay, and I'm going to get maybe the funny thing out there before anything else is, guys, I carry a change of slacks with me. Okay. I'm a broad guy. I'm a big guy, right? I have not personally ripped my pants before, but I've seen it happen to too many people that in my backpack, I will always have a extra pair of slacks in case something unfortunate happens. I don't know how many of us have probably seen one of our buddies split their pants while they're bowling, but I don't want to be that guy, right? So I essentially I have a pair of slacks that's going to be in there at all times. So that's one of the oddball things that I'm going to have in the bag. But let's go through a list of things that I think are super critical that have to be in there. Okay, so we know when we go from center to center to center, the environment's going to change. So the first thing is a lot of the people that are probably following this feed have a high performance pair of bowling shoes, right? And I think too often I see individuals have these high performance bowling shoes and then they're too tentative to actually change the soles, the heels, and everything that goes along with it. And I'm here to tell you, as I'm going to reach down here, when I say that I over prepare, I actually have one pair of shoes, which is my primary pair of shoes. And then I actually have a spare pair because I have broken a few pairs of shoes in the middle, and I don't want to, again, have that happen during the block. But when I say overly prepare, yeah, sure, I go in and I have, your standard, your soles and heels and things like that come with it, You can see I got anything from kind of used up ones to, you know, brand new ones that are in the bag. I have, you know, beaten up the same type of heels and the same type of soles that actually slide. Like, you know, if I like an 8 or a 9, sometimes I don't like a huge, you know, a brand new 9 because it just doesn't, it's not broken in at all. But I'm going to be prepared. I have soles that I've never used in my life. How many people have a black ice sole in their bag, an S12, a 12? Okay. I will tell you, I've never used this on my sole in my life, but I have 2 of them in my bag just in case. But I have used it on my heel. Bunch of 10s that are in here. You name it, I got it when it comes to heel and sole combinations, because this right here, and kind of talked about it, you know, after this weekend with Carrie, is might be the most important things that are in your bag to have variety of. Okay. If you're going from center to center, all right, and you're going from bowling on wood, different types of synthetics, it could be the area you're in, could be at altitude, humidity in the area they're in. Your shoes might be the most important thing that you have to make sure that you're overly prepared for. Let me give you an example, right? So this weekend, we bowled, and I'm just saying where we bowled. We bowled at Chaco's, okay? So always a great venue, great host. And we ran into a situation at Chaco's where I learned right from John Chaco that the night before on lanes 9 through 14, they had some glow bowlers come in, and they were unruly and rude and disrespectful, and they proceeded to dump full pitchers of soda on the approaches. Okay. Well, guess what? He did everything he could overnight, but 9 through 14 in that building this weekend were the stickiest approaches I've seen in years. And essentially I could not bowl. But having this stuff in my bag got me close, right? It got me close to being able to kind of slide through it. It was just too inconsistent, because where it wasn't spilled on the lanes and where they tried to clean it up, you would have that cover on the shoe, or the new sole, that was so slick walking to the line that you could barely get going. But then when you got up to the line, you needed it to go. So, you know, it's kind of a unique one, but I've always joked all the time when we're talking about lanes and making lanes hard and stuff. If you make the approaches hard, you make the lanes could be as easy as possible. But if the approaches suck, you know, they're sport compliant approaches. Okay. Make sure in your bag, okay, make sure the condition of your soles is good. Make sure you have enough variety of those soles and heels. If you have one that you wear 90% of the time, that's fine. Okay. But make sure you have backups of that one as well. Don't be caught where, you know, you don't have that, or you have nothing to go to, because worst case scenario is you didn't put a no wet on or a shoe cover or something like that, or you were in the concourse and didn't even realize it, and you step in water. Now what do you do, right? So from an accessory standpoint, make sure that you have spares of those, especially the ones that you use the most, because they're going to get worn, they're going to smooth out, they're not going to be the same. Or if you have to change because you stepped in a substance or anything like that, baby powder, it could be anything, you need to make sure that you can essentially change that to the same number combination and move forward with the rest of your block. Okay. I'm watching some of the comments that come through here. Yeah, Rocky, you're definitely not a big guy, but you split your pants. I mean, if you get it in an athletic position, it's pretty easy to do. Tony Walton, how are you doing, my friend? So that's the first one. That's pretty easy, right? You get soles, you got heels, you got things like that. Okay. Now, the next thing, for soles, heels, and stuff like that. So obviously, you know, everybody that's here, we all should know better not to put easy slide on our soles. Okay. It's actually meant for your thumb. It's not meant for your shoe. But if you do use it, okay, and you rub it into carpet in the back or whatnot, you also want to make sure that you're keeping the bottom of your shoe as fresh as possible. So another big one for me is a shoe brush. Okay. There's so many varieties of this, but keeping that this can alter what you're wearing without having to change soles. Because remember, if we go with the grain on the soles of our shoes, we're going to increase slide. If we go against it on the bottom of the shoe, you can slow it down a little without having to change. So if you're close, shoe brush. I use this pretty frequently. I'm not the guy that's going to use it every single shot. I just make sure that the bottom of my shoe is wiped with my hand before I go up there. But critical aspect here. Other ones that you can use that technically they're not legal, but a slide stone. You could use a slide stone on your shoe, but technically if you read the rules, it's not legal to use those. But they are out there. They can actually increase slide. It's not really a soap. It's actually like a marbleized stone, but it does work. All right, so shoe brush, another big one that's in there. Anytime you're in there, the next one that's got to be in there is some type of pad, right? Whether you're using, I like some of the thicker pads. I'm actually not a fan of this one. It kind of smears oil around a little bit, but it was a prop I had here at the house. But you want to make sure that you have in your accessory bag multiples. Again, you want to make sure that you have something to clean the ball. Okay, so when you're using a leather type pad, something like that, you want to make sure you have one. You want to make sure that you keep this clean too. Okay, so let me tell you, like when you get enough oil in these pads or anything like this, whether it's a Vice One, Storm, any company that makes them, right? Those leather pads are cleaning the oil off. They get oil saturated. And after a while, when you're cleaning the ball, you can actually feel that that ball is not actually getting it all off. It's getting slick. You don't hear that squeakiness. Like it's getting it to it and down to the point where you're starting to feel the surface of the bowling ball. So again, I'm not saying you got to carry 2 or 3 of these, but you need to own more than one of them because really you need to have one that's in play and one that's clean that you can kind of swap out. So make sure you have enough of that. This is critical between shots. We've had a full segment on these Avalon pads, right? We're going to make surface adjustments. Everyone should be carrying these. These are so important, especially from when you're at outside of league play and you're at tournament play and you're trying to change your front to back motions, or you're trying to actually smooth the lane out a little bit and get your bowling ball to go through the pins correctly. It's important to have pads. Again, you got to make sure you have a wide variety of pads, and you have to make sure that you understand they don't last forever, right? You can feel when they start to degrade, but when you're using them dry, they're going to break down a lot faster. But make sure you have pads in your bag because it's going to refine your ball motion for what you're bowling on. All right. A lot of us in this game at this point have gone to some type of an interchangeable thumb system. So again, I use interchangeables. This is actually the ultimate version of interchangeables, and I will carry multiples. Not just for bigger, small, or anything like that. Yes, anything can break. A slug can break. Anything can go that line. But again, if you're traveling and you're bowling in different, humidity, maybe it's hot in the building, maybe it's cold in the building. Obviously, our hands are going to go up and down, especially if you're a field player. You got to make sure that you have backup interchangeables that are in the bag, ready for use for when your hand's changing. Because again, we need to make optimum shots each time we go up there. So you're not going to go out there you shouldn't be going out there with one interchangeable. By all means, if it broke for whatever reason, what do? Right? You're done? No, you got to have something to go to. All right. Interchangeables are great, but you got to have something you can bounce off of those. For myself, another key component when I'm thinking about it is I use grips. Okay. I'm going to answer this real quick because Carrie said wear a skort, and the PBA will not allow me, which is sexist because only girls are allowed. It's in the rules. You should have to wear pants too, but Chuck Gardner, you absolutely should wear one because you're not competing and you're standing in the back. That was a good one. Another thing that I constantly travel with is always got extra sets of grips in the bag, especially if you're you're traveling or you're not going to be around, or maybe, you haven't changed them out in a while and you kind of go to a ball, or you're going to go to a ball and you got a kind of little bit of a feel, or heaven forbid you rip or tear one, or one goes flying out with a little bit of glue failure. You're obviously going to be paired with having a set of grips that are in there because maintaining your feel again is critical. And this is something you can do easily on the fly. You could go as far as having a grip puller in your bag. I have one. I just don't like to use super sharp knives when I'm in a hurry, so I throw a grip puller in there, and obviously some glue to go along with it, right? So this can help a lot of things, right? This little bottle of glue here, it can glue these inserts in. It can glue a repair maybe that you need to a shoe on the fly. It could actually be used, seen it used a lot on skin, when it gets real bad and you're trying to hold something together. Having glue is pretty critical. Now, when you're traveling and stuff, you need to be careful based on how much liquid you have. But it's important to have something that you can change those grips in and out with. So I will travel again, not just with my grip size. I'm a player that uses vacuums, so they do, kind of give a little bit. But I have sizes up and down because I can tell you when I travel, like for instance, the guys were just out in Reno, right? So in Reno, you're definitely in a portion of out west where the altitude's a little different, and every time I go out to kind of Nevada, my hand tends to go up a little bit. I think you see that with a lot of the guys that were out there competing. Their hands getting busted up a lot depending on how long the format is. Sure, they have a tour truck they can grab these off of, but let's say I was going out there for like Vegas for the USBC Open Championship, and my hand's up, I got something I can change to on the fly if I need to. All right. Those are always in the bag. For myself, for anybody out there too, I think it's good if you have tools that are, in that bag. Bevel knife's huge, maybe some sanding mandrels, having something in there, little sanding discs if you need them, just to kind of work out thumb holes or anything else that you need on the fly. Again, you don't want to just try to out bowl something that doesn't feel 100% comfortable. You want to essentially have it in the bag, ready to go if you need to make an adjustment on the fly. I know a lot of people are going to come up with, a million other things, but, as you go through and you're using things, something we might overlook, something as simple as this, something as simple as a ball ring, right? So when we're using all these tools and I'm trying to do something on the fly, nothing's worse than not having, something to place the ball in to make it stationary so I can essentially do these things with ease. You don't like doing it on a tabletop. So these are $1 or, you can get these at pretty much any pro shop, probably some of you for $1 or $2, to have something to put your bowling ball on. Now, it's not always, about the tools, things like that on, that you're going off of. I mean, you got to be ready. I mean, I think a big one that a lot of people do have in is something similar, and this isn't bowling related, but a nail clipper. Okay. So a nail clipper essentially, don't have to be female or even male. You get hang nails, or maybe a nail that's been bothering you, something that's a little piece of dead skin or something that you need to pull off. I mean, a nail clipper comes in handy to essentially take care of that. And another big one is this is stolen from Carrie, but a nail file too. So as a pro shop guy, I mean, my hand I don't really rip open. Okay. I can bowl really long formats. My hand's usually good. My fit's real good. But no matter how good your fit is, because I'm going to tell you, you probably saw some guys or gals that were, out bowling the Masters and bowling the US Open, and they did back-to-back tournaments there. Somebody like Sterner, right? Sterner bowled probably the most games out of almost anybody that competed over a 14-day span because, he, making both shows and getting in the long format. And, Jason's hand was essentially pretty beat up. His thumb took a hammering, and you see a lot of guys, the fingers were starting to crack open. And again, that stuff doesn't always point back to bad ball fit or something like that. That stuff happens from, the dryness, the air, the humidity, like everything in there. And you got to figure your hands going in and out of, vinyl, stuff like that. You're causing frictional properties. You're probably going to get it. But, if you have small calluses, things like that on your hand, you want to smooth those out. Nail files come in handy, especially for people that got the calluses and the stuff on the thumb. You can file those down a little bit. Get a nice little smooth, makes everything fit a little better. If you're a person that doesn't like to, let's say you don't use grips, and you're right in there, a traditionalist, don't like them, drill fingertip, you might want some different types of tapes, like, protection tapes, right? Some people wear these as preventative, right? Because they like the way that it feels. I, for myself, have a ton of reverse in my fingers. So I don't like the feel of the protection tapes on my fingers, and I have to use like nubs so I can actually feel it on the pads. But this is a big one to have in there because protection tapes are similar to, skin patch in a way, right? So pretty much every player probably has this in here. I can tell you, it has been a very, very long time since I used skin patch. But growing up, this was my best friend because, back then, those are the days, if I'm aging myself, everybody's super stretched in the balls. There was a ton of reverse and everything, and people's hands were just shredded. Nobody knew how to drill an oval. So I got to know this stuff really good. But, one of the things with skin protection, the tapes have gone a long way. People that still use the patches, I don't have one in the house here. You may want to add a light or two. I mean, when I was younger, to get these to really stick, you put it on, light it on fire a little bit, blow it out. It's another thing that you can have in the bag to essentially in your gadget bag for bowling because, these things will get you through a block. Another one, right? How many people probably don't have one of these? I mean, you have skin protection tapes that are in your bag, but we don't have anything to cut it with, and then we're running up to the control counter and asking to borrow their community scissors, right? Small little scissors that are in there. These can double. These can help pull grips back. Don't forget about your various tapes, right? Tapes are huge, right? These are for feel, right? I have some Vice ones here in front of me. Essentially, Vice does like the color coding system and slower to faster. So a variety of tapes is a good thing to have. The other one is a variety of widths because one width is not always the right answer. I yell at Carrie all the time because she likes 1-inch tape and her thumb hole's like 43/64 pilot, which I don't understand how you can use 1-inch tape, but she loves it. But when you're trying to fill gaps, I think I use the example like I know Danny jumps on here every once in a while, but like Danny Wiseman probably has the most ridiculous gadget bag of tape I've ever seen in my life, like little slivers on the inside of that thing. There's probably 6,000 pieces of tape. But the reason he does that is he's looking for pieces that are filling gaps. So again, make sure you have a variety, whether it's, white tape, black tape, different textures that are on there. Because depending on what you're bowling, could be temperature, could be anything along those lines, you may be looking for a different release point, right? So one day you may be using a slicker tape because it's a little warm in a building, and the next one it might be a little colder, and you're looking for a little more, a little slower release on the thumb, or maybe how you're throwing it that day, you don't want to get out of the thumb quite as quick. So, sorry, two-handers. I know you don't use stuff on your thumb, but I'm talking to the traditionalists that we have to put that thing in there. So, tape tool could be another, big one. A lot of us that have been around a long time will fold up the backing of the piece of tape that we're pulling off and use that as an insertion tool. But they sell things like this that are make it easier to place tape in the right portions. Okay. Some other things that go into there, and I think Steph Walton said it above. Extra pair of shoelaces, absolutely. Extra pair of socks, I definitely have those in my bag as well. It could be because it's a long block. It could be because, you got a hole starting in the back of them, or you forgot them, so if you leave a pair in there, you have something to fall back on. I'm not going to take a bottle this size, but, ibuprofen, things, painkillers, anything along those lines, things we may be running for. Even when you get into that aspect, everybody's a little different, but, for me, for the amount of knee surgeries and stuff I had, I don't like to wear knee braces when I bowl, but I definitely have one in the bag. In the event that I run into, something where I'm getting a little irritated and, I'm just not going to let it run its course. I didn't bring any over the house, but like, KT, Genesis, all those types of kinesiology tape. A lot of players will have those in their bag as well. Those will aid, certain body parts that may not be firing correctly or being a little aching, through the blocks. You can tape to get through. I will say one thing on that, though. I see way too many individuals that use the kinesiology tapes incorrectly. When you're using kinesiology tape, really, there's a ton of free videos that are online that will essentially show you how to properly wrap yourself to the body part that's actually hurting. Too often I see people, with kinesiology tape, especially for the wrist, right? And I'll see them take a full piece and just wrap it around the wrist. Just use medical tape, because you're not doing anything. You're wasting an expensive piece of tape. You would have to cut that into half moves and then neutralize the muscles in the way that you want it to be, to essentially get the merit out of what that's used for. So watch it online. Other ones that I have in my bag, I obviously talked earlier about having the pad for cleaning the ball between shots, but I definitely have some microfiber towels that are in the bag, along with some cleaners. So if you're at a tournament that, maybe it's a non-PBA event or something along those lines that doesn't have the access to ball spinner, anything like that, you can do it on the fly. You can clean it, and that's where the ball ring comes in. Maybe you're in a hotel room, something like that at the end. You can clean up your gear while you're on the road too. Again, if you're going to travel, you're going to be on a plane, doing anything along those lines, make sure that you only have enough in those bottles that's applicable to travel with, because a lot of these things I'm talking about as bowlers quickly understand, this bevel knife, this is not going on the plane. Okay, they're going to take this. Okay, this is a weapon on a plane. Okay, you got to be careful of what you pack, especially if you're going to do it on carry-ons. Just watch what you're taking with you. Brandon, I know you just said it on there, and it was going to kind of hit on something like that too. Medical wipes or alcohol swabs, something like that. Those really come in handy too. That say maybe you're on your biggest thumb or whatever, right? And you're at the point where you've been bowling and bowling. You have every piece of tape out of that thing that you can, and you're down to one piece of tape. And I take that piece of tape, and now I got glue residue all over the inside of it. Those come in handy. Wipe out the residual glue that's in the inside, and you can take that right out of there. Back in the day, I remember growing up, before using Easy Slide Net and the era I was in, if my thumb was getting stuck, I'd just reach over to the guys that were smoking in the ashtrays and just use a little ashes and put it on my thumb on the bottom of your shoe. Some of those little life hacks that our parents probably taught us all as kids. But, there's so many items that are out there that, can essentially go into your backpacks. And it has to be, make sure that you're prepared is really where the whole message of this thing is gone from. And Aaron, yeah, glue's a lifesaver. I mean, unfortunately, you get glue failure, grips can fly out. If you got a really bad spot that's cracking open or something, sometimes we use glue to put over busted up hands and stuff. I mean, sometimes it holds a little better depending on where the issue is. Some people use it on the edges of their patches when they're putting on the skin protection and the skin patch. It's something that's used on there. But again, I would light that on fire and make that thing nice and sticky. And then, I think I heard this on the show the other day too. And for all of you that may not be old school and patch when you were younger, like when you go to pull those patches off, when the whole thing's over, don't just go when you're done, like, oh, I'm done, and rip the patch off, because guess what? The skin that was irritated underneath is going to rip right off with it. Soak it, okay? Soak your hand and get that thing nice and wet around there. I was careful not to use the word moist, but now I'm going to say it anyway. Get it moist, and then slowly pull it back so you can preserve the skin that's underneath there. All right. I'm going to scroll up here quick and see if there was comments that were flying through, but I'm pretty much close to the end of my backpack here and what I have in there. The only other one that I didn't, and maybe I did mention it, but I actually travel with a spare pair of shoes as well. because again, in the event something would break or failure of the shoe or something like that, I just don't ever want to be in a situation where I got to put a house shoe on, because I don't think that's going to end very well. Let's see here. Lorenzo, when I find myself having to use soapstone, I put the nail file out. Yep, that makes sense. Charlie, my opinion, and this kind of reiterates, and somebody else coming in here, Charlie, glad you're tuning in for us. It was good to see you a few weeks ago. His opinion is soles and heels are the first step of timing, which they really are, because if you are not sliding properly, you are drastically changing your timing. And, for one, and I guess maybe to, kind of support that a little more, somebody like myself who has had so many knee surgeries and surgeries on the back and things along those lines, I really relied on my slide to generate power, to also generate projection, and it is part of my rev rate. I use my legs to essentially bowl, and that's how I teach bowling, and how important the legs are. So if you don't have your legs as your asset, and those legs are not moving forward based on how your normal timing is, and now you're going to go up and try to plant or, shorten your slide, all that ends up doing is making you steep, and then it's all upper body, and you're just not going to bowl good. Okay. You got to get matched up. And that's why, like, for instance, when I go into the regional this weekend, I don't go to the practice session to try to get lined up for the tournament. Yeah, I can learn some from pair to pair, no matter what pattern's down. I already know when I go in there Saturday, they're not going to be the same. But what I get out of the practice session more than anything is the fact that I get to move from lane to lane and really get antiquated with the approaches in the building. Depending on the age of the building, and let's say even if they're wood approaches, how many times have they been cut? How bad are they cupped? Because it affects the way that I slide. So I can make a lot of really good decisions in a 2-hour practice session for my footing and my shoes going into the next day. That is way more important to me trying to, get super lined up when I'm not bowling for score. All right. And Lorenzo was saying he wished he had a backup heel in the bag last night. Yep. Same thing. What do we got here? It's like somebody said, I use the Vice interchangeable inserts. Yep. Vice interchangeable inserts. He's talking about ifs. Again, ifs are fine if you can handle it. Okay. So the only problem with an if is, and yes, you can tweak this a little bit, but you're kind of locked into certain lateral pitches, and front to back, I can't do anything other than 0, or they don't sit correctly. And I can tell you right now, I can't use 0. Okay. That's my non-bowling hands, got great flexibility. My bowling fingers, man, I've been in the game for a long time. Those suckers it's like petrified stone, right? I can't use if, so it wouldn't be an option for me, but if somebody has flexibility, by all means, you could do that. That's why I use vac use. What else we got here? Brandon, old school hack. Let me put this one up here. Pretty good. I've seen this before too. Old school hack. You can use a napkin to help shrink your thumb by putting it over your thumb, putting it in a bowling ball. I learned that as a kid too. You would, take it, insert the napkin in, keep pushing your thumb in there. It kind of makes it go down. It works to an extent, but again, it's an old life hack, just like the ashes on the bottom of a shoe. Jacob, what do we got here? Would rather be prepared every day of the week than not prepared enough. Absolutely. I mean, there's, Mike, I did mention the slide stone before you go in there. The slide stones are actually illegal. So, you wouldn't think that, but they are. Read the rules. Come on, you're in, aren't you on the York County Committee? You should know that that's an illegal use of a tool, but it's okay. So is Easy Slide, and people get away with it all the time. But what else we got here? Another thing is rosin. Yeah, rosin, grip sack. I didn't, Vice powder with feel. I didn't put those on there for my personal list, but again, I was probably going to get to those at the end. But rosins, puff balls, grip sacks, things like that. Things that are things that maybe you like. Some people like compression sleeves. There's such a vast majority of items available for you out there that you want to put in your bag. So again, whatever you as a player deems is, kind of critical to your game are the things that need to go in there. But I think from a common standpoint, there's a lot of crossover of what's going to be in your bag versus mine. I think that, the biggest points that I would share with everybody out there are the ones that I went over. Is essentially, definitely, if you're using interchangeables, you got to have multiples. Shoes, really think about your heels, your soles, and what you're going to use there, because again, I don't care what the pattern is. I don't care how easy the pattern is. If you can't slide correctly or what you're accustomed to, you're not going to be the best version of yourself. And you are going to, you're going to struggle. Let me see what else we get here. I keep a nylon footy in my bag to shrink my thumb, especially during the summer. Yep, nylon does the same thing, almost like a napkin. Again, like no wets, things like that. You got to, cover up your shoe. There's so many different versions of those out there. And we'll go from there. Ryan Snyder, did I miss the explanation? I'm not sure. Did I miss you asked the question or something, Ryan? Did I miss the explanation? Ryan, let me know what you're speaking about there, but I'm not really sure if I missed something you had asked me. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Let me see what you got here. Did I miss the explanation on when to change soles versus change heels? I didn't really get into an explanation of when to change soles and heels, because it's, I mean, if you're saying when is a heel or sole done, like, I'm not really sure how to answer. It's going to be different for every single person. You have to understand what your normal and your normal, what you like the feel is when it's coming to your shoes. So, for me, everybody's different of the combinations too. That's why they make so many heel and sole combinations. Because I can tell you right off the bat, like for myself, it has nothing really to do most times with my sole. When I'm struggling to slide, it's when I come down on my heel. I'm very hard on my heel. I get on my sole, but when I hit the brakes, I hit the brakes hard. I'm a bigger guy, okay? So I got a lot of compression of that shoe coming down. So if the front of that heel isn't moving forward is when I struggle. So I have what's referred to as a leading edge, which is one I use a lot, which you can change the felt pads on the front of that heel where it compresses down. That's been a big one for me. Generally, I will use a all black felt heel, but when I'm really struggling, I'll go to a leading edge heel, which I have put as far up to 10 on the front of that to kind of combat, individual, combat it when I'm really coming down and I really can't get my foot to go forward. You notice that a lot more on synthetics, or if you're bowling in even in a place that's wood, when the humidity is high and the air is thick, you're gonna get it even more. You can tell, like, you ever notice, like, you can tell when you walk in a bowling center that the air conditioning wasn't turned on early enough, or the air handler, to get some of the moisture out of the air. That's when you're going to struggle the most. But I mean, Ryan, when you're talking about, like, when do you change those soles and heels? I mean, you can kind of get, you can get to the point where you can kind of feel where they're at the end of their life, because thinking about it, like if you're using a lower number and it essentially starts to smooth out too much and it really changes the texture of that sole's probably shot. Is there a life, there's not a life cycle per se, but you can kind of tell when they're getting to the end of their livelihood. Like if I use, for instance, if I had an 8 on and I'm using it for a long period of time and I go to put a brand new 8 on, that brand new 8 feels way slower than the 8 that I've beaten up, because the 8 I've beaten up has become so smooth on the bottom. It's crazy, the differences that you see there. What else do we get here? Dennis, what's your opinion on guys licking their hand to apply on the shoe? Okay, well, I can answer this in two ways. One, it's freaking disgusting, okay, because they're licking the same fingers. So they might as well just get down and lick the ground. So I think it's disgusting, but you know, it's a tough one. I don't think a lot of that really affects everybody else in there. I think it absorbs it so quickly, so I don't think it hurts the approach per se. I still feel that they're putting a foreign substance on their shoe, which essentially should not be allowed to do that. Now, I will go down and, I would rather see those players go back to carpet and rub their foot real hard on it to get a little bit of heat to essentially allow that friction in between to slow them down on the approach a little bit than, putting their fingers in their mouth and dabbing the bottom of their shoes. Because, again, it's like licking the floor, man. It's kind of gross. Good question. So, Rocky, you're guilty of that? Rocky, you're disgusting. I said it. You're disgusting for licking your shoes. But what I'd rather see do, like I said, do that, go back to the carpet, get some heat between there, or reaching back down here again. I really encourage those individuals instead, one, when they're really slick, use a brush and go against the grain, not with it, not front to back like you're going to be sliding. Go against it, and it'll slow you down enough. It's a big one on there. Hutch, what's up, my man? What do you say here? Kind of like last weekend, Jeff, didn't matter what heel sole, sneakers might have been an option. Yeah, it sucks, and again, I try not to dwell on things. I think everybody's gotten that from me, but when I competed this past weekend, grinded through the first game, had myself in position, hopefully hit a good pair or two, and unfortunately hit those pairs where they were literally flypaper glue, and I went up a couple shots and I stuck really bad. And I can relate, Dennis, because I've had 14 left knee surgeries and then 2 in the back. So I had a pop in the knee a little bit, scared me more than anything. And the rest of the day, I knew it was a short format, and I was kind of pacing the people on my pair. I was just walking up and throwing shots. I'm not going to, as much as I get on here and I'm like, man, this is awesome. I love the bowl healthy, and it's so much more fun. I'm essentially not going to hurt myself, because I'm forward thinking, right? So I just, took it for what it is, refocus, got an adjustment at the chiropractor this week, feeling pretty good, and gearing up for the weekend. I'm really, I'm chasing a banner this weekend. That's the ultimate goal, chasing a banner. So, what else we got? Yeah, no problem on the opinion. Hopefully there's a, hopefully I'll run into some of the individuals that are on this feed. I'm not sure if anybody on here is bowling Towson, but it's, it's what's on the horizon for me this weekend. Hopefully it'll be down. Not every tournament is going to be cut or a cash. Sometimes you just have to do what you need to do. Yeah, absolutely, Matthew. I mean, it's not every week's going to be good. It doesn't matter how good you're throwing it. It doesn't matter how good yesterday was. And the greatest ever do it, as we talked about in this program all the time, is like, you can't be great all the time. It's just how you approach when you're downs, and go back with the highs. And for me, it's behind me already. We bowled league on Monday night. I threw it freaking fantastic, and I had nothing to show for it score wise. Hell, I might have thrown it better than I did the week prior when I bowled 760 or 770. I mean, it's a game, right? It's a game, and how we approach it and the things we do together and how we learn from it is what makes the game awesome, and makes us, here's plug time, makes us better than yesterday, right? I got to wear my own brand, right? But, man, 50 minutes of me chirping and still got a whole bunch of you on here. But, I think it's pretty, good little session here at the end. And, I'll look for 1 or 2 more comments here before I wrap it up. But essentially, again, put in your bag what makes sense to you is really what I'm getting out of it. But err on the side of being overly prepared. And, it's not a plug for, essentially trying to get you to purchase more things. There's nothing to that. But again, I just don't want you to go in somewhere and not have what you need, right, to be, the best you can be that day. So, prepare, make sure you're ready to go in. Think about what you have, go through your gadget bag too. Nothing worse than, okay, yeah, I have skin protection in the bag, right? But as much as I use this crap, I guarantee it dries up more than it's actually new. Then if I go for it and it's all dried up, what good does that do me? I'm sure every one of us have had that happen before. Pete, what is the weirdest thing you've seen in a bag? The one thing you couldn't possibly figure out a use? Well, God, man. The weirdest thing I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen some stuff coming out of the bag that I thought was like, I know Jeremy Domingo is not on this right now, but he'll probably see it at some point. I always make fun of Jeremy Domingo because, instead of a shoe brush, he's got a freaking, it's like a dish brush. Like, I don't even think it does anything. I think it's just a metal thing. Like, it's literally like a dish wand. I don't know how to describe it. It looks like almost like a toilet brush. Man, but the weirdest thing I've ever seen in a gadget bag. I don't know. I've seen a lot of weird things over my life in the bowling industry, but I've seen, maybe, I know you said it earlier, but I've seen some weird things people use to adjust surface. Let's put it that way. I've seen some nasty paper come out of people's bags, like literally 40 grit. I know you said drywall screen earlier. That's fine if you're using a thumb hole, but I've seen people use drywall screen on the somebody had a cheese grater. Did they use it on the ball? If it is, I mean, I would have loved to see that thing go down a lane. But yeah, Scott, tweezers. What do you use your tweezers for? Hangnails, stuff like that, probably. I'm not sure. Cheese graters for shoes, drywall screens, yeah, thumb only. Yeah, it's all things. Like I said, there's so many obscure things that you'll see. But again, erring aside, be overly prepared for what you're going in for. Make sure the stuff that you use the most, you have multiples of. Frank's hot sauce and accessory bag for Jocko Wings says it's the best. All right. I haven't had the wings at Chaco's, believe it or not. I've had the pizza there. I don't know about the wings, but if it's good, I'll take your word for it, Rocky. Maybe I'll have to order some of those. Personal fan, yeah, definitely seen those. It's really getting in now. I see a lot more and more the fans, like people bring in the Milwaukees with the 20-volt lithium batteries that are running all day long. They go on out. There's plenty of bowling centers those work, pretty well in, because it's awful bowling in the heat. I don't care for it myself. All right, gang. Hey, we're at the 53-minute mark here, so I think it's a really good time to kill this one for the night here. Matthew, I've never gotten wings there. I mean, usually when we're done, like I've gotten a slice of pizza. We usually eat when we're done because we have about an hour and 45-minute drive home. So we generally stop somewhere. Like, believe it or not, we stopped at a Damon's in Hazleton. I was like, man, I haven't seen a Damon's in like 10 years. We're going there. But I've never had them there. I had pizza there. It's okay. They can ban me. It's all good. But all right, guys, gals, everybody for tuning in. I enjoyed the session tonight. Love that there's a lot of involvement on here. A lot of comments that are coming through, a lot of interactions. It's way more fun that way. It doesn't feel like I'm just talking to a screen. Again, if you ever have anything that comes up or a topic you want me to kind of review, by all means, shoot me a private message. I'll do my best to fit it in on the schedule. There is a lot of new ball releases coming up. So you'll definitely hear a couple talk about it Tuesdays coming up here. Next week, I was really trying for last night with the happenings last night. I decided not to do last night's broadcast. Next Tuesday, I will have a guest on. There definitely will be a talk about it Tuesday. Thursdays will be, when we have some newer balls to review, we'll definitely get those going again for you. And until then, again, gang, be better than yesterday. Support the broadcast here, support the channel, go onto YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe. If you haven't gotten one of these signature shirts, by all means, go over and visit Coolwick. I've seen them all over the place now. It's freaking cool to see everybody kind of wearing the message on their chest. And when you do get those pictures, fire them all over the shop page. We love to see them. We love to share them. But again, keep supporting your local bowling centers. Get out there and bowl some tournaments. If there's anything I can ever do for anybody out there, you guys know how to get a hold of me. It's very easy. I'm very receptive when it comes to answering messages on my Facebook page, or my number is public. You can call me if you have any questions, and I'd be glad to help you out. So until then, I will see everybody. And if you're bowling this weekend, bring home a win, as long as it ain't in Towson. That's mine. Have a good one.